On average, the black dollar circulates for about 6 hours in the black community. We need to do better as a community to support black-owned businesses, but that's sometimes easier said than done. Before we can support black-owned businesses, we need a readily available economic search engine to be able to find those black businesses to support in our communities. The Essential Black Business app is the answer to that question. The EVA is always on the community side, meeting the community's needs with easy access.
So the story of a group of black men who paved the way on how ambulance personnel responds to emergencies today is gaining attention. Some 5 decades later, say a new book by one of the former paramedics of the Freedom House in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, tells of the rise and fall of the team of ambulance drivers that operated from 1967 to 1975. Kevin Hazard chronicles their experience in American Sirens. I said, now before these men became the first paramedics, ambulance workers would not provide aid to patients. Instead, ambulances were driven by police or funeral workers who simply ensured that they were transported to the hospital. But the men at Freedom House wanted to save lives in their own neighborhood, which had largely been ignored. So former Freedom House paramedic John Moon told NPR that most people who currently live in Pittsburgh's Hill District, where the ambulance service was based decades ago, most likely never heard of the long-forgotten Freedom House. He said he was 22 years old, hospital orderly, he said, when he started training there. He said, we were considered the least likely to succeed by society's standards. He said, but one problem I noticed is no one told us that. He said, former ambulance driver Phillip he first recognized Hill's need for a street machine. He connected with a local entrepreneur who ran a job training program in the neighborhood. The pair then joined Peter Safar, a Viennese-born anesthesiologist, who invented a cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR, and selected the first class of 25 paramedics. So who would you end up with? He said, a number of guys, maybe, who was fresh back from Vietnam. He said a number of guys maybe who were fresh out of prison. He said a number of guys who were in between jobs because literally they're picking people up and who they see kind of wandering the streets. Now Safar had treated former Pennsylvania governor and mayor David L. Lawrence, who suffered a heart attack and was transported by police. Safar believed Lawrence could have been saved if it had on-site care. Now Freedom House operated under a city contract and serviced the Hill District and Oakland, Pennsylvania. Ambulances in the area of the city were still driven by police. The program paved the way for innovation in modern medicine. Freedom House's director, Dr. Nancy Caroline, wrote the first national curricula on emergency street medicine for the U.S. Department of Transportation. Still, the overwhelmingly white force saw by the most black team of paramedics as intruders on their turf. Now they said hazard rights, and a new Pittsburgh mayor, Pete Flaherty, started to withhold funding. There were many within Freedom House who eventually came to the conclusion that, the problems that we're having with City Hall are not what we're doing, but rather who's doing it. Of course. They don't like to see black people successful doing anything. They sure don't like to see black people innovate anything. You know that in this country. I told y'all, black people have been sabotaged every step of the way. Every step of the way. We do something, we invent something, whatever. Here they come to sabotage it. This country would be 10 times, or maybe even 100 times more richer if they wasn't so racist. If they would let black people innovate and do what we do, oh man, this country would be more well off. And because of the racism here, that's why I feel, and I just say this all the time, it's what I believe, you do better going to an African nation and innovating there. Because at least there, they're not going to sabotage you. But these folks here, they quick to sabotage any black person doing something unless you sell it to them. Now, if you sell it to them, they fine with it. Like you create something, then they buy it from you, they good. But you say, nah, I'm not, you ain't buying my technology. You're not buying this and that and the third. Okay, now since you're not buying it, I'm going to sabotage you. And if the sabotage don't work, I'm going to take you out of here. That's what normally happens to black inventors of something that's going to be good. Now, say by 1975, the Freedom House was a new citywide emergency management services department. Most of the Freedom House paramedics who stayed said they were treated unfairly. Moon said he was forced to ride as a third person or as a two-person crew. He said he retired in 2009 as assistant chief. He said, I owe Freedom House a debt. He said that I don't think as they'll ever be able to repay. He said, because they're the ones that instilled that motivation and that drive into me that I could do something no matter what it is, no matter what the hurdle and no matter what the barrier. So let me tell you something. When you have these idiots online that like to say the statement, black men didn't build anything. You know that little stupid statement that's said by some old rabid females in our community, unfortunately? Well, you wouldn't have an ambulance service if it wasn't been for black men building something. Just make sure you go pass that message on to those, unlearned and uncouth females in our community that like to repeat that crap because they don't know the history of our people. Black men and black women have innovated America. It wouldn't be America if we did not innovate. We weren't just the builders of America. We was also the innovators of America. You wouldn't have a home security system if it wouldn't been for a black woman. You know what I'm saying? Black men and black women have built together in America. There's no separation of that. Things we've done in the food industry, different things we have created even for war, like, gas mask and, all the traffic lights you see, every day. That's black men building something, innovating something. You understand? The refrigerated truck. Different things that we have done as people. Lewis Latimer, you wouldn't have these lights on that I have if he didn't create the filament of that bulb. But black men didn't build anything. We have built America and has innovated in this. And like I said, back in the 70s, that wasn't too long ago. So when you hear them idiots online talking about black men didn't build anything, just start running down history. Running down what is going on in America they're even enjoying, because them little females that say that, if they have a problem, they call 911. The reason why the ambulance is showing up and treating you on the way there is because of black men. Just remember that. But let me know what y'all think about this. Like I said, it's great to know our history and what we have, contributed to America. No matter what these white supremacists say, they're not going to teach you the truth of what we have done here in this country. They're not going to teach that. They don't want to. This is why their school system, to me, is not worth the crap. You do better homeschooling your children if you have the opportunity to do so and teach them our history. Make sure you pick up my 2 books that's in Amazon right now. The first one is Passive Aggressive Racism and the System of White Supremacy. And I talk about in that particular book how the system of white supremacy really runs and on our daily lives here in America. In our latest book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, we go through those steps to try to deprogram you from the system of white supremacy. Make sure you can pick up those books on Amazon.com.